Welcome back. In this module, we'll be looking at HTML5, which is hypertext markup language. And the version that we'll be looking at for HTML is version 5, which is the latest HTML. So in this course, we'll be going through this outline for us to learn the different parts and sections of HTML5. But before we get started, we'll install Git to just help us get started, and we'll also install the necessary tools that will enable us to start writing our HTML5 code. Okay, so as you saw in the previous video, which was an introduction to this course, and as we went through the resources, you might have seen that one of the tools that we'll be using is VS Code. So for you to go through this course, you need to have VS Code installed on your machine. Aside from VS Code, you can use other tools that can help you write code, even online editors. But for this course, we'll be using VS Code to write our code, and we'll also need a browser, which in this case we'll be using Google Chrome. Okay, so let's go ahead and now install Git, which will help us get started, and I'll explain how it's helping us. Alright, so what you need to do is go to Google and just type Git and press enter. So the first link that comes up, which is Git, is the one that we want to go to. So what we'll do rather is open link in new tab and go to that tab. Okay, so this is the home page for Git. So as you can read here, Git is a free and open source distributed version control system designed to handle everything from small to very large projects with speed and efficiency. Okay. So Git will be used in this course for the purpose of version control system. We'll go into details when we start looking at Git. But for now, what we need to do is just download the latest version of Git and install it on our system. So you just need to come here, download for Windows. So once you download, you need to install it. So you can download it. I already have it installed on my machine, so there won't be a need for me to download it. But what you can do is you can just click on download. Once you click on download, it will bring you to this page that says download for Windows. Then you can even see here they're saying click here to download the latest, which is 2.40.1 64-bit version Git for Windows. So you can go ahead and install this one if you have a 64-bit operating system installed. If you have a 32, you can go for this other one. Okay, so my machine is 64-bit, so I can download this one. So I just have to choose where to put it on my machine. I can say download. Okay, so it's downloading. So once it finishes downloading, I can open it. Okay, so once it finishes downloading, this tab you see open only. So when you click on open, it will now start installing. You can follow through the instructions and the prompt that will come up, and it will be downloaded in your machine. So I'll cancel it because I already have it installed. Okay, so after you download Git, you can go on your desktop, then you right click. When you right click, you'll be able to see this tab which says open git bash. If you don't see this, then it means you've not yet installed, or the installation wasn't successful. So when I click on open git bash, a terminal will open up. So Windows has its own command line or terminal, which is called the command prompt, and it has a shell, okay, which is related to this same one, but it's called PowerShell. I guess I don't have it installed. Okay, but when we open the command prompt, okay, when we open the command prompt, what you can do with the command prompt, you can also do with the git bash that we've installed. So with git bash, it has a number of commands that can also run on Linux system, but cannot run on a Windows system. So the main reason why we installed Git and why we're not using the command prompt is because we want to utilize some of the commands and the commands that we can use here. So with this one, if let's say you wanted to check the content that is in this folder or in this directory, you would have to type dir and press enter. Then it will show you the content that is inside that folder. But with this one, if you press dir, it will show you the content. Okay, it will show you the content, same thing as it did this side, but you also have another command called ls. When you press, it shows you the same content. Now, the special thing about this is that if you have any folder, for example, here we had a folder called Samuel, and we also had another folder, which is this one for OBS, and we had the folder for JetBrains. You see that it has different colors highlighted if we use this other command instead of this one. Okay, so this is one of the good things that we are going to utilize from this tool. Okay, so we won't be using the command prompt, rather we'll be using git bash. Okay, and the other important thing why we are installing git bash is because when you go to a folder that you want to open, okay, so if I want to open this folder in VS Code, right, in VS Code, which is the text editor that we'll be using, what I can do is right click inside that folder and click git bash. So when I right click and open git bash, the command prompt will open the actual directory that I'm in, which is web development, web dev course. But if you noticed, when we opened it while we were on the desktop, it opens the directory for desktop. Okay, so before we open our folder in VS Code, we need to install VS Code. So what you can do is you go on Google and just type VS Code. So when you type VS Code, the first link that pops up will open it in a new tab. And when you go to that new tab, you now be able to see the download button for VS Code. Okay, so you can just click this one, download for Windows, or you can click here, download. So you have these different installers. So if you're like me who's using a Windows PC, you can just install this one. But if you're using a Mac, then you can install this one. If you're on a Linux, you have to install this other one. Okay, so in my case, since I'm using Windows, I can just click here because the system detects what operating system you're using. So I'm sure for those that are using Linux or Mac, it will say download for Linux or Mac OS. But in my case, I'm using Windows, so it's able to detect and tell me to directly download Windows. Okay, so you can just click here, then once it's done downloading, you can now install it and follow the instructions on the prompt. But since I already have it installed here, there won't be need for me to download it. Okay, so I'll cancel that, end that, and I'll come back to my folder. So what you do now is you open git bash inside the folder that you want to work with and the one that you want to open in VS Code. So what you do now is you just type code space dot, then you press enter. So when you press enter, it will open that folder inside VS Code. Okay. So when you open it for the first time and you haven't worked on any projects, this listen to be blank, but the start buttons will be here and everything will be like that. Okay, so we can close this welcome tab. Then this is how your VS Code will look like. Okay, so for this one we end here and we'll continue in the next lesson.